Good morning and welcome to Mental Health Matters with me, Dr. Audrey Tang. My co-host is Judith Crosier, and today's show is one which is very close to my heart. We are going to be talking about the dilution of well-being, because you cannot fail to notice there are so many influencers out there, there are so many mental health TikToks and Instagrams and so on, and a lot of it is not necessarily accurate. The reason why we do Mental Health Matters is because we want to take a deep dive. We want to take 45 minutes to an hour to discuss these topics and do so with the experts who have the credentials, who have the training, who've often trained in multiple disciplines to be able to give those tips and tools that they do. And in order to talk about this, we are welcoming back a wonderful guest. It's Dr. Stephanie Fitzgerald. She's a neuroscientist, a psychologist, and a workplace wellbeing corporate trainer as well. So she's going to be talking to us about that dilution of wellbeing she's experiencing, we're all experiencing, and learning what we can do about it. Morning, Jude.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
But I do get ever more angry about how I'm seeing the field that I've worked in since 2012. I did my PhD in 2012, workplace wellbeing. And first of all, I wasn't taken seriously. And, you know, you keep working and then you still see more and more research saying the same thing that I said back in 2012. And then now it's almost like got so popular that I'm still not being taken seriously, but the other way.
The other way. So frustrating. Yeah. I mean, it's good that well-being is much more in the front and talked about and taken on board by employers, for example. However, yeah, if it's done not in a professional way or not by professionals, then that must be so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point it was about 2017 where well-being became a big feature. Everyone was doing it, but they were doing, we're going to have lunchtime yoga. That's what we're doing. And if we have lunchtime yoga, we don't need to give our employees anything else, and that's absolutely fine. And even in America, I heard of one organisation that was giving mindfulness classes in lieu of holiday pay.
Oh, my word.
So let's not pay you, but you've got mindfulness.
It reminds me of a school I worked in, and actually I joined in 2016, so it was exactly then. And they said, right, we're going to set up a wellbeing committee. I was like, right, I was the first in the queue. Oh my goodness, it was the opposite of wellbeing. It was terrible. So we had to give up our lunch times to meet. So already meetings, you know what it's like working in a school. And then all the ideas they came up with were extra work for us on top of the work that we were already. Oh, it was a nightmare. I left the committee quite soon afterwards and didn't partake in any of the tasks that they were suggesting, because it just was the opposite of well-being. And that's what happens when you don't have an expert to guide you in the workplace.
It's using buzzwords. It's using all of those things which sound great, and because Google's doing it, it must be good. Well, to help us unpack all of that is Dr. Stephanie Fitzgerald. She's been on the show before. We absolutely love her as a guest. And, well, we'll meet her straight after this.
Hi, my name is Dr. Constance Leland, the host of Level Up Circle, where I elevate the world through education, one learner at a time. Join me on Fresh Takes, Thursdays at 9 a.m. PST, right here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. We have Dr. Stephanie on the show again with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We love chatting with you last night. It was absolutely fantastic. And Dr. Stephanie is a neuroscientist, a psychologist. She's a workplace trainer as well, and she founded the company Soyo. Please tell us about Soyo.
So Soyo has sort of three strands to it, but the one that is probably most relevant for today is workplace wellbeing consultancy. And so what we do at Soyo is we use evidence-based interventions. They're typically low cost or no cost, because I have an NHS background, so that was very important to me. But they're ways of helping organisations to make sure that their employees are happy, healthy, safe and engaged. That's sort of the core underlying principles. And it's making me smile when you're talking about, the lunchtime yoga. I think when I tell people I do workplace wellbeing, they get quite excited and they think, oh, that must be fun. It's lettuce in the canteen, it's yoga on the lawn. And then I go in and say, actually, I'm making sure that you're medically legally compliant. And they sort of blink at me a bit and look a bit dazed. So it's not quite as sexy as it sounds, but I'm there to make sure that everyone's happy and healthy. So, yeah.
I think that is exactly what is needed. Yeah. Exactly what is needed. And I know we've talked about this before, offset. And it's a bit like, if we don't take a health and safety perspective, what you get is a very strange situation. People talk about burnout and suddenly it's all, oh, you need to take some sessions. You need to go and do your counselling. We'll set up these things for you. But if I were to go into a workplace and fall down a hole, what you will not be doing is telling me, oh, well, let's teach you how to get out the hole. Let's teach you to walk round the hole. No, I'll fix the hole. And this is really what you're saying. It's about looking at the workplace policies, procedures, and the structure of the workplace to make sure it's not causing the burnout in the first place. You're fixing the actual root of the problem. That's essential. And with that, so much of your work then, when you have addressed those problems, has a neuroscientific basis, which I think really makes a difference because it's about how the brain works. Why do you think that academic grounding is so essential when it comes to really making changes that stick?
I think it's as simple as knowing what to do. I really do. I think qualified mental health, physical health professionals are essential in the workplace. And often what you see in workplace wellbeing is very well-meaning individuals with a passion for well-being. So they really want to make a difference. But if you don't know what to do, then you end up expending a lot of resource, a lot of money sometimes on things that don't work. And then you almost get the hype cycle, where people get very excited about something and then they get disappointed in it and then they can't be bothered with it anymore.
Yes.
And I feel like we've seen that in wellbeing, where everyone bought an app, bought a Peloton, bought, some sort of Fitbit, bought something, and then, oh, I'm not a new person. Oh, well, it's in the, the Peloton's now a clothes horse, the Fitbit's in the drawer, all those kind of things. So I do think we see that in wellbeing. And for me, one of the things I was really passionate about was bringing evidence-based best practice into workplaces, because that's what we do in clinic. That's how we get people better in clinic, is we follow protocols, nice guidance, etc., where we are making sure that we know what we do works. And I wanted to lift that out of clinic settings and help people who were never going to see a psychologist, who were never going to register or consider or maybe culturally speak to a psychologist, but could still benefit from all the help and support. So that was, hence Soyo.
Love it, love it. Now, pulling out from something that you've just said, and I love this word, you say interventions. And the word I hear all the time in corporate, incentives. We'll give you a taste card, we'll give you a gym card, we'll give you a this, that, or the other. It's an incentive. You're talking about something that actually fits within the structure of work. And for organisations who are sitting there just going, well, what? Do you mind explaining just a little bit more as to why it's about the intervention, not the incentive, not the little perk?
Absolutely. So for me, wellbeing, where wellbeing works really well, where I've seen it be most effective, is where it's woven into the fabric of your company. So wellbeing is not an add-on in the same way it's not for individuals, right? So if you and I drank loads of alcohol all day, ate loads of junk food, didn't exercise, just slobbed about all day, and then come the evening we feel a bit bloated, a bit hungover, we've got a sore head, we feel really, lethargic and all the rest of it, then we think, maybe I did something along the way. Maybe that glass of water that I drink at bedtime isn't quite going to be enough. And that's sort of what we see in wellbeing is, nothing is fixed along the way, but here's your taste card, here's your gym pass, here's your lettuce in the canteen, here's your yoga on the lawn. And suddenly it's, but that's not working. And again, then people get excited about maybe this will be the thing that makes you feel better. It doesn't. And then they feel, really disheartened, actually. So for me, where it works best is well-being should not be an add-on at the end. And actually I talk about well-being being the fuel for your engine, right? So if you were doing a really long car journey, you wouldn't do the journey and then think, I need to get petrol. You'd think, I need to get fuel in order to achieve what I want to achieve here. It's the same with well-being. Well-being is the fuel for your engine. So if you take care of your people, they're going to achieve greatness. But if you burn them out and then at the end say, here's your mindfulness class, that's not going to do the trick. Spot on.
That makes complete sense. So other than that, what are other problems that you see commonly in the workplace when you go in to try and implement some well-being?
So definitely the add-on approach is a big one. I think people throwing mud and seeing what sticks. So and then the trouble with that is that people get very fatigued. So if you keep throwing incentive and project and, you know, you have a wellbeing committee and you've got wellbeing champions and then you've got, you know, someone else and da-da-da-da-da. I think...
There's shivers down there. Yeah, it's all very familiar.
We're touching sore points left, right and centre here.
Just a bit.
I think, so for me, I think there needs to be a strategy and that's, you know, really where I come in and I help organisations. Like this isn't about the nice to haves and the extras. This is about how are you communicating with your people. I often get called in or get requested. So someone will say to me, we've announced 20% redundancies in our company. Can you come in and make everyone feel a bit better about that stuff?
Oh my word.
And I will say, respectfully, no, because people are allowed to feel anxious about redundancies if you've just dropped on that. And it's always on a Friday afternoon. I mean, the communication is never great around these things. And you don't need to be a psychologist to know why people do these things on a Friday afternoon so they can hit send and run away. But I do think there's something around how do we engage our people in well-being? How do we make it part of our company value? How do we really support and weave this into the fabric of what our company stands for rather than chuck it on at the end? So definitely that add-on is a big issue, not knowing what's going to work, so throwing everything and just seeing what sticks. And then people get bored and fed up of having mud thrown at them, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. It's almost got to be a part, like you say, interwoven into the fabric so that it's not an add-on and something extra that you do.
Yes.
I mean, having that extra thing is kind of counteracting the well-being anyway.
Yes.
To start with. So,
exactly that. Yeah.
There we go. So in the workplace, obviously AI is becoming more prevalent. It's becoming a bigger thing. Does that impact in any way on trying to promote positivity and well-being in the workplace?
I think it can do. So I think, so I actually have just completed a qualification through Oxford Uni's Business School about AI because I'm really interested in the ethics and legal side and I wanted to understand more. So I'm not technical, I'm not a coder, I'm nothing like that. I'm a psychologist, but I wanted to understand where is this going in the workplace and what do we need to be mindful of. And really what I'm seeing with AI is slightly it's going in the wrong direction when it comes to our well-being because AI developers talk about human labour and so they're developing machine learning to do things like make paintings and write books.
Yeah.
So what we'll be left with is doing the chores and the laundry and that sort of thing. And it's like, no, I want AI to do that stuff so I have time to paint and write and so on. So I do think there are well-being implications coming down the line. In terms of, let's take, for example, a chatbot therapist. I think there is so much nuance in therapy that people are unaware of that you cannot replace a human therapist with machine learning chatbot. You just can't. Where they have a great place is psychoeducation. I think accessing information, teaching people breathing strategies, for example. So I don't know if you've seen on those apps where a balloon will expand and then a balloon will retract. That's a great visual for someone who doesn't like to count their breath or someone who's got asthma and so breathing actually is a bit more complicated than just take a deep breath. It's like, well, actually, maybe I can't, you know. So there's something here about there are tools and education that can be so useful, but let's not kid ourselves that you can replace a psychologist with a chatbot. And I think we have seen failure after failure after failure of people thinking psychologists are expensive and trying to replace them with something cheaper, and we've never had a bigger mental health crisis than we have at the moment. And I do think there are nuances to therapy, and it sounds fanciful, but let's take something like transference. So as a psychologist, when I have someone in the room, they may not be talking about something, but I may suddenly feel so angry so angry, not with them, but I'm feeling it. And I can raise that with someone and say, I'm feeling this, nothing you've said, but I'm noticing, I'm feeling this very strong feeling of anger. Is that how you feel? And of course they say yes, and it's come out, and it's something that you've picked up. It's that sort of neuroception that you've picked up. You know, it's not something that they've said. But again, if you're on a chatbot and they say, how are you feeling today? And you say, not too bad, they can only work with what you've given them. They're not feeling. So for me, AI definitely will have a place, but I think we have to take a bit more control over where that place is going to be.
And how and where it's used as well.
Exactly
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I think the point there about the nuances is absolutely key. You cannot replace a person. And when you also then were saying about how AI is being trained to write books, and that's just heartbreaking. That's a whole creative pursuit that will no longer be open to us, kind of thing. And that's
No, it's quite frightening actually, the whole AI scenario.
It really is. Now, Dr. Stephanie is staying with us, but we are going to go over to our resident coach, Sharon Lawton, who will be talking to us about the benefits and pitfalls of AI.
Hello, lovely viewers. It's Sharon Lawton here. I'm a professionally accredited life coach and mentor, and it is my absolute pleasure to be with you here today as I share some of my tips and tools to thrive. Today, I'm going to be sharing some tips around the use of AI tools such as ChatGPT and Alexa and other tools. And I think when we think about AI, we can all agree that it is definitely here to stay. Now, there are many advantages and disadvantages, and the advantages range from streaming daily tasks that support us in saving time when we use things like digital assistants like Siri or Alexa, for example. And also we use it without probably even realizing it every day with our mobile phones when we use things like face recognition. Now, it's also transformed the way that we communicate because we are, of course, using autocorrect and how we find our way around and navigating when we're using things like Google Maps, for example, to monitor traffic also in real time so that we can avoid those potential gridlocks. It can also support us in saving time if we're needing to do some research, when we're using tools like Google Search or reading extremely long reports. And I've done it myself when I've asked tools like ChatGPT just to summarize a long report to save me having to read the whole thing. But of course, it's also really important to be cautious. I mean, AI is great, but it's not a real person. So we need to remember that when we use these tools, such as Google Search, for example, not everything that comes up is accurate. So it's important to check your facts. It's important to check the data. There is also some increasing concerns around the ethical use, such as the use of AI in data privacy. And there are now some thoughts around whether or not the use of AI in our daily lives is increasing human dependency on machines. And of course, let's remember, as I said, it's not a real human, so it can't think outside of the box or have any real empathy or emotion. As I say, AI is definitely here to stay. And I'm going to leave you with a little quote from Spider-Man that goes, "With great power comes great responsibility." So let's remember and use it in the way that it was designed to be used, which is all around supporting us in our daily life. And just like any tool, there are always going to be advantages and disadvantages. And so until the next time, stay inspired, stay empowered. Bye for now.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. We have Dr. Stephanie Fitzgerald with us, and we are talking about the dilution of well-being and the future of well-being and where it may be going, which could be quite problematic. We've just heard our resident coach, Sharon Lawton, talk about AI, and that's kind of where I'm going to start. And you've sort of answered this question already about apps now. Because I see a lot of apps, and in a way, I think what they can do is at least they connect with someone, and it may reach people that perhaps, can't afford a psychologist, or just maybe are in a situation where they can't get to a psychologist physically. Let's have a look at some of the positives. Are there any positives about the apps, as well as the visuals that they can create for us, but maybe some of the more conversational type apps? Are there any positives at all?
I definitely think there can be. I think, again, it's all about context and expectation.
Yes.
So I'll give you a personal example, which has nothing to do with therapy, but I was flying to speak at a conference and the airline lost my luggage. Oh, no. Slight nightmare. And I knew that I was chatting to a chatbot. So even though there was a person at the desk, when I went to report my luggage was lost, they said, please scan the QR code. And I thought, right, so, you know, I'm scanning this QR code and reporting it. And I knew I was chatting to a chatbot. But what I liked was that there was a written record of me saying I was on this flight, this was my flight number, this was my seat number, this was, you know, my booking reference, this is my bag, here's a photo of my suitcase. For whatever reason, that's what I do, I recommend it, take a photo of your suitcase. And I knew at some point it would switch to human interaction. And so even though I knew it was a chatbot, I was saying, thank you so much for your help, I really appreciate your support, etc., because I wanted my log of that interaction to reflect well, but also to show I was prepared to play ball, right? I was prepared to go through this. And at some point, it very obviously switched to a human. The conversation was much more detailed. It was much more sensitive to the situation. So it was much more, my colleague so-and-so will be in touch. They may ask you to meet here, but you might need to go here, and all of which could be chatbot generated, but the feel and the tone of the conversation changed. So for me, that served a very real purpose, but lost luggage is not mental health. And
can
so,
be.
Well, it can be. Certainly led to a few challenges, I think. But also just, I think it's that lesson in you cannot control, you know, what's going on. So it was, sometimes they're beautiful reminders, aren't they? But I think for me, if we are expecting AI to help people, for example, at risk, I would be very uncomfortable with that. So, you know, if someone was experiencing suicidal ideation, if someone was, you know, really feeling very unwell, and we thought, well, go and chat to an AI chatbot, that would really trouble me. So I think there can be benefits, there can be advantages of using it, but we have to think about the context and we have to think about risk management. And I do think, again, this dilution, I really see no one considering risk. It's the first question I ask. So when app developers, sometimes they come to Soyo and they say, you know, can you help support us with this development, or we're really interested in this. And I will say to them, there are points of privilege here, so you're relying on the latest iPhone update or whatever it may be. Not everyone has access to that. But also you are anticipating that someone is basically well, and they're looking to boost their wellness, whereas actually lots of people who are looking for help may be feeling in a point of crisis. What are you providing for them? And what I find time and time again is nothing. That's a someone else's problem.
Yeah. And I like the point when you were saying about your interest in AI being the ethics and the legal side, because I think that is something we all need to be a lot more aware of, because it's not just what the tool is or isn't doing, or who can download it or not, but it's who can change what's going on in that tool without you knowing. We already know the Horizon scandal with the post office. Yes. It's very similar to your app. A personal experience was a delayed flight where I took a screenshot of the over 3 hours where you can then ask for compensation. But on the app, the company changed the time it landed.
Oh my word.
And so it didn't look late. And you were just... But so there is a real danger of what can go on in the back room. With that, so people have tried this incentive, people have tried this app, and it hasn't worked. Now they're suspicious. How do you win them back?
So I think transparency is key. Right? I think transparency is key. I think absolutely your stakeholder is the most important person you should be consulting with, and often they're the last person to be consulted. So, you know, it's often, we'll give you this app and then we want feedback rather than ask you if you wanted the app in the first place. And I find that fascinating, particularly if you're in an organisation that's trying to save money. What are you doing? Do you know what I mean? Like, ask your stakeholder first. So for me, stakeholder engagement is really key. I think very clear communication, particularly with anything that requires personal information. Again, it's that legal, ethical side of things. Who has access to that? What are they doing with your data? How long is it going to be stored for? Who's got access to it? You know, how is it going to be shared in order to support you? Because of course, the best apps are personalised healthcare apps, and they will use your information. So they need your information in order to make recommendations and personalise it. Those tend to be more effective than generic apps, because we all know generic advice, and we can look at it and go, yep, 5 fruit and veg a day. Yeah, I know that. I know I should hydrate, but I'm not, you know. So I think we can all benefit from engaging our stakeholder first, really understanding what is the need, and can an app provide that. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting when I did my AI course was one of the professors said 80% of the things that we're currently using AI for, we don't need to. It's overkill. It's almost like the shiny new toy. And I think when you look at apps, sometimes you go, do I need an app to do that? Or would a bit of paper and a pen do that? So if you look at things like habit trackers, it's like, great, but do I need an app to track my habits, or can I just put a tick on a piece of paper, or you know, on a notepad, or on my fridge,
really
or on, you know, like reward charts like we do with kids? You know, is there something? Do I need an app? So I think we do need to question, actually, do I need an app for this, or is it a bit too much? But also, am I glossing over a problem and papering a crack with an app? And I think if you are, then you definitely need to say, again, to stakeholders, what would be most useful? So I think that stakeholder engagement for me is absolutely key. And if that's your employees, just ask the question.
Ask the question. Key message.
Yeah, great message. Thank you. So that's really important. I mean, as an aside, I've looked at apps before and thought, what am I not getting about the app? Because why is it there? Why do I need it? You've just said sometimes I think they are there just for the sake of it, and you really, a piece of paper's fine. That's what I like to use anyway. So in terms of other than provide apps, what can organisations provide to improve wellbeing? You know, what can you suggest that they could do?
So there's so much that organisations can do, and what I would say, and I would say this because we've been talking about this, but is go for evidence-based protocols. So that's your starting point. So it's really important not to jump to conclusions and assume what people need. Ask people what they need, have that clear communication, and then I think there's also something to be said around what is the workplace responsibility and what's the employees, because I think sometimes that boundary gets a bit blurred. But start with, what can I provide that is going to meet this need? And if I can't provide that, tell employees that. There is nothing more frustrating for an employee than raising your hand and saying, this is a problem, and then 6 months later saying, this is still a problem, and the organisation saying, yes, we're working on it, we've given you this app, or, you know, we've trained some wellbeing champions, and you're thinking, but my workload is still double because you've got a headcount freeze, or you know, recruitment freeze, or what have you. So I think really, again, that engagement, that speaking to everyone who's involved. I think trade union involvement is really important if you're in a unionised industry, so that everyone is on the same page. And again, clearly explaining why you're putting something in place. Here's the evidence base. And actually, if you have someone who's trying to sell you a wellbeing program, a piece of software, an app, and they cannot give you the evidence base, or they say to you, oh, we're building it, we're building the evidence base, the evidence base, great, I'll be in your wellbeing space, but I'll be your guinea pig and I'll be compensated accordingly. Don't charge me full price for a product that is under development. That would be my top tip. So definitely seeking the evidence base, definitely understanding, you know, where's the evidence that this works, that it works in my industry, with my type of employee, with my demographic, then I'll engage in it. But I think otherwise it is that clear communication. I think understand the problems that you have, look at your data. It always surprises people, but if you're in a non-office environment, so if you're in sort of manufacturing, engineering, that sort of thing, look at your safety data, because your safety data is your health data. So happy, healthy, safe, engaged employees don't have accidents. So look at your safety data. If people are having lots of slips, trips, falls, grazes, that sort of thing, it's telling you they're distracted. It's telling you the workplace is not suiting them, whatever it may be. Start there. Start with your safety data. But absolutely reviewing all the information available to you, and acknowledging that this is a process and a strategy that will take time, rather than a quick fix app, fix bit of software, one lunchtime session on mindfulness, whatever it may be. I really think it's important to get people excited and engaged in their wellbeing at work and see it as benefiting them as well as the company.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And you touched on it as well. What can employees do? What can we do for our own well-being in the workplace?
There's so much we can do, and that was really why I wrote Reworked and why I wanted to get that message out there.
So we can buy your book for a start.
Yeah, well, absolutely, yes.
Love your book.
But there's something around putting your health and happiness at the centre of your career, and that's really what I wanted Reworked to do. I wanted to rework the way we were thinking about work. Because we are all told, and most of us financially have to work, and we're told, get a good education to get a good job. No one tells us what that means. What does a good job mean?
Yeah.
So we think salary status, right? Salary status do not include health and happiness necessarily. The two do not equate. And so we need to start thinking about, what can I do in the workplace to make my health and happiness the priority? And I think sometimes at work, certainly in previous generations, there's been this kind of stiff upper lip, just get on with it, put the mask on. And today's workers don't do that. Today's employees know about the importance of being authentic in the workplace, of showing up as their true selves, not hiding anything. And I think there's something very powerful in that. But also, I always say this to employees, don't give your well-being to someone else and hope that they manage it for you. Acknowledge, what can I do to be happy and healthy at work? What can I take control of? Which relationships do I need to build? How can I utilise my network? Rather than, I'll just give it to my manager and hope that they know what they're doing. That's too much of a gamble for me. I'm like, take some of that control back. Feel empowered in the workplace. Prioritise your health and happiness. And then you can meet your employer halfway. Whereas actually what I see a lot of people do is say, I'm stressed, Audrey, can you fix that for me? And it's like, well, you might. I mean, you probably could. But actually,
you have to do the
your
work
average
after the
manager.
session.
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah.
Oh my goodness, yes, thank you. and so many important points there. Now, we are, of course, now going to put Dr. Stephanie through a well-being challenge. And this well-being challenge comes from our sister show, Skits and Quibbles, which is on at 8 p.m. PST, where we're going to give you a little test on your own well-being and how you look after yourself. But before that, we're going over to the news desk with Jemma Gambrill, who will be talking to us about AI in fitness.
Recent studies found that 17% of people intend to lose weight in 2024, while 18% aim to incorporate more exercise into their daily routines. However, obstacles such as a lack of guidance, motivation, and results cause many to abandon their fitness journeys. So could AI be the answer, with personalised workouts coming straight to your phones? Perhaps not. Despite the global AI obsession, 3 in 4 adults do not trust AI in wellness. However, studies have shown that AI-adapted workouts provide a 12% improvement in cardiorespiratory health, while personalised AI-based exercise have shown to improve physical activity levels by an impressive 82% compared to traditional methods. So what are your thoughts? Do you put your faith in AI, or do you think that it's too generic? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Dr. Stephanie, this is our Great Dream Challenge. Now, this actually comes from our sister show, which is Skits and Quibbles, where we put all of our guest stars through this challenge because they tell us in a minute all the things that they are doing for their well-being. The idea is, Great Dream are the 10 keys to happier living, from Action for Happiness. And if you can, I'd like you to tell me all the things that you've been doing. If I say giving, when have you given? Relating, when have you related? All the things that you've been doing which are boosting your happiness levels. So, are you ready? I'll come and stand here out of the way. I know. Well, talking of pressure, we've only had 2 people complete it all.
Okay.
And generally people get up to E, so that's kind of where you're aiming.
Okay.
But the secret is speak quite fast. Okay.
That I can do.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Giving.
Give time.
Relating.
Same thing. Connect with other people all the time. Give them my time.
Exercising.
Gym 6 out of 7 days.
Awareness. Living mindfully.
I journal.
Trying out new things.
Just finished an AI course. I'm learning how to implement it.
Direction, having a goal.
My friend Bruce and I have annual goals and monthly goals that we share over WhatsApp every month to keep us on track.
Love it. Resilience, how you bounce back?
I have a folder of emails which are thank yous and lovelies and things that give me a boost.
Love it. Emotions, looking for the good.
I find one beautiful thing in every day and I journal it.
Acceptance, being comfortable with you.
I do things like this, put myself out there.
And meaning, being part of something bigger.
I am part of a writing community which I love and we connect every single day.
Smashed it again! Woo! Well done! So you also joined the top of the leaderboard by getting through the whole lot of great dream. There you go, right on the top. There you are on the top. I'll put you in there. There we go. Over our title. Well done! So, Dr. Stephanie, if you could give our viewers one tip from your book to look after our own well-being, maybe one for viewers and one for organisations, that would be amazing. And please come on the show again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me. I think my one tip would be to think about your happy, healthy, safe and engaged score, if you like. So thinking about how happy, healthy, safe and engaged do I feel in my current role? And then for organisations, same tip, think about how am I allowing my employees to be happy, healthy, safe and engaged in the workplace? And if I'm not, time to do something about it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Stephanie.
Thank you.
And we will be back with Business Boost. A really quick business boost from me today because I can't really add any more to our fabulous guest. But this comes directly from the WHO. If you are trying to think about what well-being needs to look like, this is what you want to be seeing. This is from the World Health Organization. It is a team who can cope with demands, build partnerships, participate in relationships, make sense of life and the world, experience, understand and express emotions and feelings of all kinds. Think clearly, make sound decisions and solve problems. And what is most important, especially in the organisational world, is that you hold the space for people to be able to do all of those things. Welcome back to the last part of the show. It's that moment where we reflect on all of the things we've learned, which is, again, so much.
Lots and lots.
What are you taking away from today?
I think personally and for people working in an organisation, really just to think about everything that Stephanie said, you know, are you safe? Are you happy? Are you being looked after? And if not, why not? Yeah. And if there's nothing that can be done about that, then perhaps it's time to look for another place to work.
Yeah, and relating to that is the interventions that you use. It's so important, as Stephanie was saying, to make sure it's evidence-based, to make sure it comes from something that you know is going to work. And along with that, before you even get there, ask if people even want it in the first place. Because otherwise it is a false economy.
Yeah, it is. You're providing something that people might not want.
Yes.
Or need.
And then when you've provided it and then you take it away from some people who maybe then thought, oh, I did want that, that's even worse.
Yeah, it's even worse. And the other thing is providing something that causes more work for colleagues and employees. Yes. It's counterproductive.
And I mean, there's been so much in today's conversation. And please, I do urge you to get Stephanie's book reworked. I love it. It's one of the books that I couldn't put down, actually. So I definitely recommend it. AI. Know what is going on in the back room of that. What is the real reason somebody is creating that particular app or that particular incentive? And this helps us just think more critically.
Yeah, I mean, I think for some people, including me, I'm suspicious of AI. I don't see why it's needed. You know, there's lots of people that can do everything that's needed in the world. Why use AI? I can see some benefits, obviously. But to me, all I was thinking when, Stephanie was talking about it, the pros and cons of it, is that surely at the centre of everyone's mental health is connection with human beings. And so what is the point of using AI for well-being? To me, it's a dichotomy. I don't really understand that.
Yeah. We'd love to hear your comments. And thank you again for tuning in, and do join us next week.